we've spent a fair amount of time in the introduction, and I think it's good that teachers go back and they sit down with a team and they plan and they say, this is what the introduction says, and here are 6 to 9 to 7 paragraphs, Spanish language arts, English language arts, of introductory material that explain why the TEKS have new strands and what teachers need to think about before planning with the new strands. So that was a really strong discussion. Now let's move into developing and sustaining foundational language skills. So the first strand is developing and sustaining foundational language skills. And it's really about developing a language identity for students through a bunch of various skills.
What do you mean by language identity?
Well, it looks like to me when we're looking at oral language, basically they're saying listening. Well, what are those oral language words, those academic words that I need to pick up on, that I need to learn? Speaking, can I use those academic words when I'm speaking to other people via students or teachers? That also comes down to, can I carry on a discussion that I understand what the definitions of those words are, and I can retain that knowledge. And then when I'm done, can I go away and take that knowledge and think of what I've learned? I think that when it's time for new learning to occur, that when you have an authentic idea of what makes new language, that's when you grow.
Well, and just from stemming from what you just said, what the exciting part about all of this is that for ELAR and SLAR, it just comes together. And so we're talking about the language skills and the language identity. There's no difference. And so now we've got an English learner and an English language learner that are having the same conversations, that are learning the same skills, and each one of them is able to collaborate and learn in their own language and embrace their own language and get a better or much richer understanding in all of this and making sense of and owning what they're learning.
We are looking at, for the oral language, we're looking at vocabulary and listening, speaking, writing, and thinking in terms of fluency and in terms of self-sustained reading. So self-sustained reading becomes a tool that helps you with your oral language fluency. The vocabulary itself becomes a tool for your foundational literacy skills.
So it allows us to connect all of these literacy skills. How do we use vocabulary when we listen? How do we use oral language when we write? Because we do. And it's making those connections for students, because in every knowledge and skill statement we have reading, writing, listening, speaking, and thinking. So it's not about a skill in isolation. It's about taking that skill across every literate identity there of reading and writing and listening and speaking and thinking, and how do I apply that skill in all of those ways.
The developing and sustaining foundational language makes it very clear that students are expected to self-select and read for sustained periods of time. I think that's important to note. So students will be having opportunities to do authentic reading on books of their choice, and in turn also authentic writing. So I think that gives students an opportunity to do something a little bit more that's going to be more rewarding for them. And whenever it talks about it's very specific that they will be increasing their amount of time of self-selected reading, and that's going to move away from teachers teaching specific books and move into teachers teaching skills.
So when we talk about building the skills, I think about my kids in high school and how I'm about to release them upon the world. And I think about them when they're having to go sign a lease for an apartment. I'm not going to be sitting in the corner saying, use your dictionary to look up what this word means. So, I mean, we want to make sure that we do instill those skills in them, that they can have a conversation with someone. If they don't understand something, they can either, hey, can you explain to me what that means? Or if they read something, they can kind of try to figure out what's going on, like, is it a good thing, bad thing, where do I need to go with this? So, I mean, when it gets to the high school level with this TEK, it is very much more, I start thinking about like the real world applications. When are they going to have to use this? Because, I mean, they've got serious life choices coming up pretty soon, and the first strand is very, very crucial to their success of making it in society.
Because now I'm going into more of the structure of the word structure and the phonological awareness and stuff like that. that now it's pertaining to their own language. And so instead of just taking the transadaptation from the English, now it becomes an authentic lesson and authentic to the language that they're speaking and learning about. So it's important to know that all these things, whether you pull the ELAR and the SLAR, they go together, but each one works at their own skills. And what I'm trying to say is that, so if I know that I'm sounding out the word in English, but I'm saying the syllables in Spanish, and so there's the big difference of this is how I learn in English and this is how I learn in Spanish, and embracing that.
One of the things that's new about our TEKS for the lower grades, I think, is the word prosody. And the way I think of that is there's a phrase that I often use, the old man, the boat. If I read it like that without prosody, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It sounds like I'm talking about the old man and the boat. But if I read it with prosody, the old man, the boat, it means something different. And so the way I read it, the way the flow and beauty of the language come, is the thing that brings meaning to it. And so what does that mean for you guys in the little school?
Well, I kind of have a problem with that because with the little ones, even up to third grade, they may think that's just a multiple meaning word. When you say man, they're thinking about it being a person, and you're using it in that phrase as a verb. And so when they read it, that's not going to be able to teach them what prosody is.
I think you're right. And what about like the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. That is read with prosody because we're using the chunks of the language to put it into sequences that have clusters of words that are grouped together in terms of the flow.
And that's perfect because that's something they do every day.
Exactly.
So we've wrapped up the first strand, just a brief discussion, but there's a lot of time to be spent in that strand. There are several sub-strands when you look closely at it.